Welcome back to a new video. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to add vocals to your samples. I'm going to show you my whole process, how I add effects, how I manipulate the vocals to sound really good. And yeah, let's get straight into it. Before I start laying the vocals down, I always get a chord progression going. So I've got this pretty simple progression that sounds like this. Now obviously I've already made this progression, but normally when I'm making a sample, I think of the vocals whilst I'm making the progression. So the whole time I'm making the chords, I'm singing little ideas in my head and thinking, would this sound good with vocals on top? I mess around with the pitch a lot so I can find a key that fits my vocal tone and my vocal range. Now this one's in A minor, which I find works for me quite a lot. It uses all the white keys on the piano. It's very melodic and very easy to fit vocal runs in. So my first step for vocal recording is pretty simple. I just open up a channel with the input for the mic. And the only thing I had to start with is the auto-tune. I use Fruity Picture, it does the job. And like I said, this is in A minor. So there's a vocal melody that I really like. You'll notice I'm making a ooh kind of sound. Now personally for me, that's what I do in all of my samples. I feel like that's the best way for me that I can hit notes. Obviously I'm not a singer, I can't hit crazy melody runs and stuff, but I found that if I sing it like that, I can hit certain notes. Another thing that I do when I record vocals is I take one ear off so I can hear my actual voice. Sometimes it's hard to hear with the auto-tune. So yeah, make sure this little red button's on, make sure you got the auto-tune on, and then record. Audio into the playlist as an audio clip. So let's just lay down this first vocal melody. To be honest, I really only like the first take, the very first part. So this part here, these little 3 notes. I'm going to copy and paste that over to here and I'll re-record the second half of the run. So yeah, that sounded really good to me. I'm just gonna chop it up a little bit and then copy and paste it across. Let's get rid of this empty space at the beginning. Okay, so that's the first vocal run. Now normally I like to add harmonies and stuff on top, so I'm gonna do a couple more layers. This is gonna give you a much more complex sound. It's also gonna sound really good when you reverse it, when you chop it up, stuff like that. So let's go for our harmony section now. I'm gonna change my voice so it sounds a bit different, has a different tone to it. I'm super happy with this last little harmony here. It sounds really good. You'll notice I slightly changed my vocal tone just to do something a little bit different. The difference in textures and sound is going to sound really good when they're combined together with all the effects. So let's just copy and paste that again. So let's add one more layer, something a little bit different, a different melody, a different tone again. So I'm just going to use this last section. I'm going to copy and paste it across again. And yeah, that's all the vocals recorded. Pretty simple. But now obviously I'm going to show you guys all the effects and how to make it sound really good. So first things first, let's just go through one by one, chop them up, make sure they're perfectly in time, and also get rid of all the excess silent parts that we don't need. That's the vocals recorded and chopped up so they're all in time, all exactly how I want it. Just mute these two and we'll just focus on the main one to start with. This is like the front and center, the main melody. So first things first, let's add an EQ. Now I normally start off with a 200 cut, just cutting the low end out because you can hear some frequencies that you really don't want to hear. You can see there all the little low end parts, we just don't need those at all. You can see the main section of where the vocal is really hitting is this mid-range frequencies here. There's a bit of high end as well, so normally I boost the high end. This just makes it kind of stand out in the mix more. Again, never do too much with your EQ, keep it simple. That's what I'm going to do for this one. Next, I like to add a formant shifter. Little Alter Boy is probably the most commonly used one. So essentially it makes it sound lower pitched by shifting the frequencies, but it doesn't actually change the key of it, so it's still going to be in A minor. So let's just show that on the EQ. The Alter Boy is off and you'll see where the frequencies are hitting. So 335 hertz roughly is where the main vocal is hitting. If we add the Alter Boy on, I've done it down -5. You can see it's very slightly lowered, it's down to about 340-ish. With the main vocal, you want to keep it kind of short and not do too much with the reverb. So I've used the vocal distance sci-fi preset. I brought it down to around 50%. I did bring the size up a little bit, but this is just giving it a bit more depth and helping it sit in the mix. But with the main vocal, you still want it to be present, so you don't want to drown it out with too much reverb. So for now, that's good for the main vocal. Let's bring in the second harmony now. So I'm doing the same again with the EQ. With the formant, I'm going to bring it down by about 2.5, not as much, so it's not quite as low as the other one. And for this one, I'm going to add a vintage verb. I'm going to drown it out a little bit more, so it's a bit more in the distance. So that sounds good for now. Let's add in the final vocal. Again, I start with the EQ, cutting the lows out. For this one, I'm going to add a spring reverb. I want to make the reverb super big. I think I just want to add a delay to one of these, maybe a couple of them, just to give it, fill a bit more space. So let's just keep it as a single. Normally I do ping pong or dual, but I'm going to keep it single for this one. And then let's just have it on 8th notes maybe. Bring the modulation down, EQ a little bit, bring the drive up a little bit. Yeah. Okay, so now the vocals are at a point where I really like them. What I'm going to do is put them all in one track, so I'm going to consolidate them, and then I'm going to mess around with them, chop it up, reverse it, manipulate it, all that kind of stuff. So the first thing I'll do is just pitch it up, down, see if we can get something sounding a little bit different. Okay, so now we've got the vocals. I'm going to show you a few different tips and tricks, a few different ways that you can flip the vocals. To add a little bit of spice to it, you can do some little reverse sections. So I'm liking this section here. What I'm going to do is chop it out there and there. I'm going to copy it into its own little section. I'm going to right click up here on this little arrow, make unique as sample. I'm going to put its own mixer track, and what I'm going to do is reverse it. I've also pitched it down a whole semitone just so it's not clashing with the frequencies of the main one. So just by doing that, straight away you've got a new texture and a little bit of a different sound. So another technique that I like to use is to time stretch my vocals. Very simple, very self-explanatory. If you click the stretch button up here, and then let's zoom in a little bit and just drag the vocal across. So this is basically making it double time, double speed. It's going a lot faster. So what I like to do with this is sometimes reverse it just to see how it sounds. So let's add some effects to this. I want to pitch it up an octave. I'm going to use the sound shifter, and then what I'm going to do is half time it, because with the reverse, because it's so fast, there's a little bit start sounding a little bit off time and it doesn't sound too good. But if we add the half time, it's going to slow it down and kind of stretch it out. And on top of that, an EQ. And one final thing you can do is combine the first technique and the second technique together. What I really like is this very first little reversed part of the vocals here. So let's chop that and make it unique as a sample. So that's down there. We can go back to the first arrangement and drop this in. So let's add a super heavy delay on this one. I'm going to do ping pong, notes, 16th. Yeah, that sounds good. Bring the mix really high, bring the feedback to like 93%, bring the drive up, bring the modulation down, EQ it a little bit, and let's have it repeat here. And again across the whole loop. And then let's put a sound shifter on the master and pitch it down. I always find things sound better pitched down, especially samples. So that's how I add vocals to my samples. A lot of you guys wanted to see me go a bit more in depth into it. So yeah, that's my process. I hope you learned something from this one. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.